Hi everyone, I'm Snowlin, and in this presentation, you'll get to know a lot about novel. And let's dive in. So, first of all, what is a novel? A novel is a form of elaborate and extended prose writing. A short novel is typically referred to as a novelette. Due to its expansive nature, it can accommodate a wide range of characters and multiple plots. In the 18th century, Geoffrey Chaucer, Edmund Spenser, and John Milton's long poetic narratives were replaced by novels. In most European languages, the term for the novel is roman, which means romance. So, in a simple word, novel is nothing but an extended writing which can accommodate a vivid and precise character, and multiple plots make the novel more interesting. As we know, John Milton's Paradise Lost is a long poetic narrative of the battle between Satan and God. So, in the 19th century, people replaced these narratives by novel. So, let's see what's a novella. The term novella is derived from Italian, which means a little new things. Novella is a mid-length prose fiction. In the 14th century, Italy was engaged in compiling tales such as serious and scandalous. So, a novella is not descriptive as a novel. The 14th century Italy showed a great interest in collecting tales such as serious and scandalous works. So, let's see, there are many genres in novel. So, first one, Greek romance. And Greek writers in the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD wrote long romance stories, often about lovers who were separated and reunited after many obstacles. Ethiopica influenced later works like Rosalind by Thomas Lodge. So, Greek writers focused on lovers being reunited after many fights or issues. As you know, Ethiopica by Heliodorus influenced Rosalind by Thomas Lodge. That's Picasqueue. In a Picasqueue, the hero, often a clever but roguish character, goes through many adventures without much personal change. Stories are realistic and are told in episodes and often satirical. Lazzari de Tormes is a key example discussed by scholars like Michael Alpert and Giancarlo Maiorino. An early English example for Picasqueue is Thomas Nash's The Unfortunate Traveller, influenced later works like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Picasqueue's stories shift fiction away from idealized romance. Example, Cervantes' Don Quixote, Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. So, in simple words, Picasqueue is about the clever hero but is naughty and a bit bad in his behavior, goes through adventures with the least personal change in his behavior. So, as you can see, psychological novel. Psychological novel focuses mainly on the character's behavior. Samuel Richardson is widely credited with writing the first English psychological novel with Pamela. It tells the story of a clever young maid who protects her virtue and ends up marrying a rich young man. So, with this definition, we can get to know that a psychological novel focuses only on the character's behavior and their mentality. Epistolary. Epistolary novel explains the story by using a letter. Deirdre is Lynch, The Economy of Character shows how novels like Pamela use letters to tell the story. This style still appears in The Color Purple. This novel can be tragic, comic, romantic, or satire. So, epistolary is a novel that explains a story through letters. It can either be tragic, comic, romantic, or satirical. Realism. Realism is the attempt to portray real life as it is, focusing on ordinary people, everyday situation without idealization or exaggeration. Realism began in the 18th century and was developed by writers such as Jane Austen and George Eliot. Realistic novels are based on ordinary people with their everyday obstacles without any exaggeration. Prose romance. Prose romance comes from medieval chivalric tales and Gothic novels. It features clear heroes and villains, often with lonely main characters. This kind of work expresses deep human emotions, fear, similar to dreams, myth, and folklore. So, prose romance is a type of story written in normal sentences, not poetry, that often talks about brave heroes, evil villains, love, adventure, and mystery. So, if you're wondering what a chivalric tale means, it means old stories about knights and their bravery from medieval times. So, if you're not sure about what's a gothic novel, it means that are dark, spooky with mystery and haunted places, more like ghosts. Novel of Manners. According to Edith Warden and John P. McQueen, a realistic novel focuses on the lifestyle, values, and conversations of the upper class, often called a novel of manners. So, as we saw, the realistic novels were based on ordinary people. Novel of Manners focuses on the upper class lifestyle. So, buildings, rooms, and it is Rome, which means novel of growth or education. These novels shows the mental and moral development of the main character from childhood to adulthood, often through challenges or spiritual struggles. This genre began in Germany by writers such as K.P. Moritz and Goethe. Dickens' David Copperfield is an early example. So, if you're wondering what does it mean, these stories are about a person's life journey, especially how a young person grows up and learns about life and the struggles that the person had gone through in his life. So, social novels. Social novels shows how people's life are affected by the society and the financial issues of their time. If the story also gives a message for change or improvement, it is called sociological novels. So, social novels speak for the work class of people who are being affected by the society and finance. For the best example, a Tale of Two Cities written by Charles Dickens. Historical novels. Some novels like George Eliot's Middlemarch and Tolstoy's War and Peace use real history to make the story feel real, but they focus on made up characters. The historical novel began with Sir Walter Scott. It uses real past events and people as an important part of the story. Example, Scott Ivanhoe take part in the reign of King Richard. So, in the historical novels are based on real history but focuses on made up stories. Documentary fiction. In the 20th century, a new type of historical novel called documentary fiction appeared. It includes real people and events from history and also uses news stories and reports from that time to make the story more real. In the historical novel, we saw that the history was real, but the characters were made up. But in documentary fiction is a new type of novel that includes a real person with a real history. Non-fiction novel. The non-fiction novel tells a true story using fiction techniques like showing feelings and changing the order of event. It was first started by Truman Capote. It was based on real facts and interview to make events feel more emotional and vivid. Regional novel. A regional novel focuses on a specific place, showing its settings, language, customs, and social life. These are not just for decoration, they help to shape how the characters think, feel, and behave. Examples, Thomas Hardy's novels set in rural England, William Faulkner's Stories from Mississippi, Sarah Orne Jewett works shows deep regional themes. So let's move on to the next one. The evolution and experimentation of the modern novel. From the late 19th century, the novel became the most popular literary form. Great writers like Flaubert, Henry James, Proust, Mann, Joyce, and Virginia Woolf explored and shaped the art of the novel. Writers began to experiment with the new ways of narration, sometimes hiding and highlighting the author's voice through symbolism, dream, myth, stream of consciousness, turning outside events into inner thoughts. This led to postmodernism. This era also saw the rise of anti novel, which broke traditional rules of removing plots, characters, or settings. Writers like Alain Robbe-Grillet and others in the Nouveau Roman movement in France focused only on raw perception. In the late 19th century, the novel became very popular, and great writers shaped the art of writing. There were also anti novel rules, such as removing plots, characters, and settings. Magic realism and fabulation. Magic realism is a style of writing that blends realistic details with fantasy, myth, dream, and life elements. Writers like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Isabel Angeli, and Gunter Grass used to mix the ordinary with the magical, creating rich and imaginative stories. Fabulation and a metafiction term popularized by Robert Schools describe novels that break traditional storytelling rules. This novel mixed the serious with comic or real with unreal. Writers like Thomas Pynchon, John Barth, and William Gass are known for this experimental style. So, magic realism and fabulation is nothing but it blends realism with fantasy, myth, or life elements, like a realism with a fantasy. So, the world of novel. Many scholars have studied the history, forms, and techniques of novel. Key book includes The Rise of Novel, Ian Watt, The Origins of English Novel, Michael McKeown, Before Novels, Paul Hunter, The Craft of Fiction, Percy Lubbock, The Art of Fiction, David Bloch. Milan Kundera also wrote essays about the novel, like The Art of the Novel and The Testaments Betrayed. For different types of novel, like detective, fantasy, science fiction, gothic, realistic, and romance. For story elements, like characters, setting, plot, tone, and points of view. So the world of novel is very broad to explore, and there are some key books and there are some genres like detective, fantasy, science fiction, gothic, and realistic, and romance. And there are story elements such as characters, setting, plots, and point of view. So there are a wide range of novels to explore, and this is just a few part of it. And that's it. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.